marriage. Today we are here with Danielle, who lives in Decula with her husband Jamar and their family. And you and Jamar have been married now for 3 years, right?
Yes, yes.
Awesome. Thank you so much for joining me on the couch today. So happy to have you.
Thank you for having me.
Oh, I'm so excited to talk to you. I have been following you and Jamar's relationship ever since y'all started dating 5 years ago.
Wow.
And I just love your story. I think it's a beautiful story. So thank you so much for being open and reaching out to me about sharing some of your stories. So
Absolutely, absolutely.
So how did you guys meet?
It was crazy. So I was with a girlfriend one day just out, and she just kept checking her phone. She was on the phone. She was just completely ignoring me. And I'm like, what are you doing? And she's like, girl, I am on this online dating website. You have got to try it. I've been on so many dates, yada, yada, yada. People have been telling me probably for like 3 years prior that I should try online dating, and I absolutely refused. But after that day, that very night, she and I went back to my apartment and set up a profile for me on this dating website called blackpeoplemeet.com.
Yes, we did.
And I joined as like a temporary, like a 30-day, did like a little trial or whatever. And I think 2 weeks in, Jamar messaged me. And I think I ignored his messages for about a week. Because my attention was elsewhere, you know, because you have all these guys coming at you and stuff. But anyway, when I finally did, we started exchanging emails on our personal email. We finally talked on the phone. I absolutely hated talking to him on the phone. I thought he was the most boring person that I had ever spoken to in my life. And after that first telephone conversation, I was like, yeah, that's not going to work. But I think a couple of days later, he sent me a text message and he asked me out to dinner. That dinner date at Atlanta Fish Market sealed the deal, pretty much. It was the best experience. It was a wonderful date, and he is much better in person than he is on the phone.
Well, there you go. I mean,
Yeah.
well, I don't know. A lot of people don't know. I met my husband online as well.
Yeah.
And I was a huge proponent for online dating. So when you said that, I was just like, oh, so another success story. You know,
Yeah.
I think it may have changed a little bit.
Yeah.
From what people I know say, it's not the same as when it was 10 years ago, whatever. But you know, it's just another way of meeting people, and I think easier to weed them out. But
It absolutely is. That's a bad stereotype attached to online dating. And like you said, I don't know now either because this was 2011. But it's just like, to me, meeting someone in a grocery store,
yeah,
at the gas station, just anywhere that you would serendipitously meet somebody. You know, you just have to use common sense and caution.
yeah.
You know, he didn't pick me up. He didn't come to my apartment. You know, we met at the restaurant. Oh my God, girl, he was standing outside the restaurant with his coat on. It was because it was February, it was still cold. Collar all turned up like Billy D.
Not Billy D. I love it.
Yes,
I love it.
yes. He had already, I don't even know how that worked because he didn't know what I was driving, but he'd already paid the valet for my car to be parked.
Wow.
He was the perfect gentleman. It was a great date, and I'm maybe not after the first date, but definitely after the second date, I knew he was the one.
Oh, that's so sweet. I love that.
Yeah.
So you guys met in 2011,
Yes.
and you dated for
5
years before you got married.
Yes.
Yes, yes. And so most people will be like, I'm probably one of the ones that was posting on your social media, when y'all get married. So how long before people started asking that question?
And you know, because I love social media, you know, and I'm an open book to a certain degree. You know, people think they know, but they don't really know. You know what I mean? But when that relationship, and still even now, you know, 8 years in, 5 years dating, married, 3, I still post about him like I did when we first started dating. So that probably started immediately. You know, people asking, you know, and my answer is the same all the time. When in God's time, everything happens in God's timing. You know, and it will be like those 5 years of dating just went by like that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So we got asked all the time.
I bet. And we have I don't want to say a large extended family. You have, you're very close to your
Yes.
sisters.
Yes.
And so how much were you getting from them, or were they just like?
No pressure from my sisters. No pressure from my sisters. No pressure from my mom. You know, my family knows me, and they took to him immediately. Especially my sister Leslie, and a large part of that was probably because she and I were roommates. You know, and so she saw him a lot, and she saw me spending so much time with him, and she saw how happy I was, and you know, I think everybody pretty much knew it was inevitable.
I wasn't surprised.
Right.
So, how has your life changed from being a single girl to now being married?
Oh my God.
Have your friendships suffered as a result?
You know what? No.
Good.
My girlfriends are amazing. I have a small, some people would call it large, but I don't know. If you follow me on social media, you pretty much see me out and hanging out and, you know, doing my camaraderie with the same group of women. Most of them are women that I met since I've lived in Atlanta. I have 2 girlfriends from New Orleans, pre-Katrina, that, you know, we've been rocking for over 20 years. And they both live in Texas. But my girlfriends have been happy for me since day one. They've been cheering for me. They've been rooting for this relationship. They love my husband. You know, he gets along well with all of them. So they haven't suffered at all, because a lot of them already had children. Some of them were already married, and they were just waiting for me.
They were waiting for you to come on board.
Yeah, they were waiting for me.
Get on this train.
So
they welcomed him, and
absolutely.
they understood the dynamics
Absolutely.
of going from single to married.
Absolutely.
So, in this transition to a married lady and a mom, what have you learned about yourself, or what are some of the things that you recognize that you maybe needed to change or work on in order to be a good wife and mother?
Going into a relationship with someone who has children, right? And you reach a certain age, as I did, without ever having children. And not only that, but not really being around young children. When I met my husband, his children were 2 and 4 years old. That's very young. That's like coming in from the very beginning. Here I am, you know, I'm single as can be. You know, I don't even have like nieces and nephews running around that I'm spending time with. And I'm very type A, you know. Everything has a place. I want everything in its place. I like for everything to be clean and neat as a pin, and you know, you're not gonna have that with toddlers and young children. So there's a certain level of patience. A very, very large part of having young children in your life is patience. I had to learn that because I didn't have it. I'm still learning that.
You know, have a baby.
It's definitely I'm a work in progress, because you know they are 10 and 11 now. I'm sorry, 11 and 12, and I still, you know, I have to tell myself, don't sweat the small stuff. Some of this stuff is just what kids do. You know, do not jump on everything. Don't jump on them about everything. You know, let some things slide. And then they are old enough to clean up behind themselves, to do certain things for themselves. Like, let go. You know, these kids sat me down a few years ago to tell me, because they used to call me Miss Danielle. And after my husband and I got engaged, we talked about, you know, what they would call me. You know, I would never ask them to call me mom or anything like that, you know. So we all decided Danny, you know, it would be Danny. They would call me Danny. So I don't know, maybe about 5 or 6 years ago, they had to have a talk with me to tell me, Danny, we're old enough to bathe ourselves. I would run the water, check temperature, you know, let them get in there and play for a little while. But when it was time to wash, you know, I would go and Danny, we do these things at home.
How cute. But at least they told you about it.
Yeah, and even now, you know, they're 11 and 12. They could fix plates. They could fix sandwiches. You know, part of it is I want to do it to keep my kitchen clean.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Amen.
And part of it is still kind of babying them. But I'm slowly but certainly backing away from doing a lot of those things.
I can totally relate. When Ray and I met, Christian was 4, and he was self-sufficient at that point. Thank God he didn't have the diapers and the potty training and all that stuff to worry about, you know. But he still required attention and care, and it was an adjustment because I was living by myself and was used to having my house run the way I ran it, and having to manage through all of that, and where's he gonna sit down and eat? So, you know, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
There was all of those things. So I can totally relate to you saying you needed to learn, I would say, a different type of patience. Because we have patience for certain things, but, you know, dealing with an unfamiliar situation, when you don't know what, you know, what the outcome is going to be, is a totally different level of patience. So I can completely and totally relate to that.
Yeah. And then having my own, you know, there's and two, even if you don't have children, I believe that when you're around children a lot, there's that nurturing part of us as women just instinctively kicks in.
Yes.
You know? So that part, I think, happened right away.
Yeah.
That part, you know? And now with Avery, you know, first of all, girl, I'm somebody's mama. Like biologically, like I have given birth, like it's so surreal to me that I went through a whole 39-week pregnancy, literally pushed a baby out, and like I am in charge of this little life every day, and he'll be 9 months. He is 9 months today.
Oh my God. Okay, so we're gonna have a little party after.
Yeah. He's 9 months, and I still literally every day look at him in amazement.
He's like your little twin. I think he's so cute. He's just so cute.
He is all mine. I'm like, God gave this to me. God blessed my husband and I with this, and I am just in awe. Like, I don't even have the words. I don't.
I can understand where you're coming from. You know, I feel the same way about, obviously, I don't have any biological children, but as far as the relationship that I have with my stepson, you know, I feel the same way. Like when and obviously it's a little different, but when I married my husband, I chose to also be responsible for a life. And I feel like it is a responsibility that God has placed on me to be a good parent, whether that's a step parent or not, to be a good parent. And the nurturing part does kick in immediately. Like, I have a lot of nieces and nephews, but because the majority of my adult life I lived away, I don't have them. I just didn't have them around.
Right.
And so when Christian came into the picture, I became somebody else. Like I decorated his room, you know, and just trying to think about what we would cook and eat. Like I'm not a cook. That's not me. But I made a point to make sure we were having home cooked meals and he wasn't eating out all the time. So you're 100% right about how there's something that changes when a child comes into the picture.
Definitely. And it does not have to be your biological child. Just a child that you, more often than not, will be responsible for in some way. You know, even when Jamar and I were dating, for the first 3 years, I want to say, of our relationship, I did not see the children as much. He lived in his own place. He had, you know, every other weekend visitation with his children. And I felt like that should be his time with his babies. His attention should be 100% focused. Not that I ever thought that he would ignore them. He is an amazing father. It's one of the things that attracted me to him most, is how much he loves his children and how much he loves being a dad. right? So every other weekend, that was his time. And, I would see them every now and then. We would do things together, the four of us, but for the most part, that I would let them have that. And then when we did started spending time, it was sometimes he would have to work. And it's like, well, I could, take the kids, do something with them for a few hours while you're at work. And he was perfectly okay with that. And I was like, wow, I can't believe, like he's trusting me like this. These are the most valuable things. These are his most prized, and he's trusting me, with his children. And we started spending more time together and getting to know each other. And, that was great. And that's when I started learning to tap into, as you say, that different type of patience. You know what I mean? Yes. Taking them to my place, doing Mackenzie's hair, taking them out to Monkey Joe's or Catch Air or just whatever, and not that we always had to be doing something for them to enjoy spending time with me, because that wasn't the case. But I mean, they were young children with a lot of energy. You don't want to sit in the house all day.
Yeah, exactly. You don't want to play in front of the TV. Right?
Yeah. But I knew that then that I was with somebody that really trusted me and really, this was a future, here. Because he's allowing me to spend all this time with his children.
And that had to make you feel like, oh my goodness. Because I remember the first time Ray entrusted me with Christian, I took him to the park, and I was thinking to myself, Lord, this man that gave me his child.
Absolutely.
I'm not a baby person. Anybody who knows me knows that I'm not a baby person. But I had no qualms about saying, well, I know you have something to do, so I'll take him for a few hours or what have you.
Yeah.
And you're right, it changes the dynamic of the relationship a little bit.
Yeah.
From not just with you and the kid, but with you and your significant other.
Yeah.
For sure.
It does.